we have episodes like that in our lives. The past few years has been like a lot of growth for me as far as like, being a business owner, being a person, because I think when we work on ourselves and work towards a more positive trajectory, good things happen. Really good things happen to you.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of That Can't Be Right, a podcast about exploring structural wrongs, cultural oddities, and wild opinions. I am your host, Ryan Rogan. If you're listening, please follow along on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at TCBRPod. Today we're talking about food and who makes it, who funds it, how we talk about it, and the implications that flow from those answers and distinctions in light of a newly announced restaurant from Berg Hospitality Group. And when I say we, I mean me and my guest, Josh Deleon. Josh is the founder of Underground Creamery, an ice cream pop-up here in Houston, the only vendor that has given me more L's than the Sneakers app. Fresh off a day of production, Josh, welcome to That Can't Be Right.
Hi, glad to be here. This is a cool podcast. Listened to quite a few episodes before coming on.
Thank you. And to be clear, I have tried Underground Creamery before. I've had friends who've had better luck than me. So if you ever get a chance, everybody, if you're in Houston, of course, check it out.
Yeah.
So Josh and I are going to be talking about a newly announced restaurant concept, or two newly announced restaurant concepts from Berg Hospitality Group. I've been following the story via Josh's Instagram and other people who are connected to the food industry and food business here in Houston. But before we start, I want to be really clear, and Josh made this clear when I reached out to him about doing this, like, we're not here to bash anyone. We're not here to tell people like what they can and can't cook, but we do want to have a conversation about why we think this is weird and problematic, and also like how to invite a conversation about how to talk about food from other cultures when you're not part of that cultural group, and honor that and not just kind of be a culture vulture appropriating. So anything to add to that before we kind of jump right into it?
No, yeah, let's get into it,
Awesome. So let's start first with Underground Creamery and like your connection to this story from the other side, not offering criticism.
Oh, yeah. So Underground Creamery is a direct-to-consumer e-commerce ice cream concept. So what I do is drops. I create from scratch earlier in the week, and then I make all the ice cream throughout that week, and then I sell it all at once. It has blown up, and it's a creature that I can't control just yet. We're working hard towards that.
Right. Can I jump in real quick? As part of the drops,
yeah,
you used to do like a riddle or a puzzle so people could guess the time?
Yes.
Okay.
That became devised because like the platforms I was using could not handle traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been selling really quick, consistently since I actually started the business. Even then, during the apartment days, my Instagram messages would just blow up just because they want to taste the ice cream. And then, random strangers would just come up to my apartment and...
Oh, no.
And then, yeah, I mean, like, they'd be like, oh, I'm so-and-so's friend. I heard about you. And eventually people like Eric Sandler would buy ice cream. So just like, some influencers that I became friends with. I used to try to do the influencer thing where I would just showcase small businesses, and then became, ice cream reviews, because that's the only treat I gave myself since I was very into fitness.
Nice.
It kind of just gave you a little tour of what Underground Creamery came about. So, and that's why either open a scoop shop or double down on the secret ice cream thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with a lot of the ice cream purveyors here, like all the scoop shops, and I'm always a believer of there's room for everyone.
Yeah.
Scoop shops will provide you consistency, availability, and that's what people like. Personally, I like being a lot more creative.
Mm-hmm.
I started this business not to be bored. So if I start like making the same shit over and over, what's the point? Why the fuck did I do this? So
yeah.
A lot of people don't really understand that aspect, because it's just like the new people that get into Underground Creamery, it's just like, oh, this fucking asshole is just like, using the scarcity model. But, it's just like, I'm there, 12, 14 hours a day, making all this shit from scratch. So I do recognize that that it is difficult, and I'm working really hard to scale it. But I don't want the quality to drop at the end of the day.
Right.
Because to me, the more revenue I get, it goes back to all the ingredients that I use.
Hey, I like it.
Yeah.
I was reading an article, another article you did where someone was like, why not move to a scoop shop? I was like, this guy is selling out faster than Beyonce concert tickets. Like, he doesn't need to. Like, they're gone. They're gone, and people are coming back. And the flavors are really cool and exciting. Like, the one I tried when my friend had it was had blueberries and graham crackers and other stuff. And you were we're doing this on a Friday evening because Josh is coming straight from working. And I'm excited. So one question before we move on. Did you ever get into the Halo Top?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. Being into fitness, in college, I did compete in powerlifting. I had a very short-lived powerlifting career. That was the thing. It's back then, if you're in college, $5 for Halo Top, very expensive because you can buy Bluebell and, there's less protein in Bluebell.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those things where, it's shit, but you're trying to convince yourself it's good for you because it has more protein. And you get to a point where just there's some fucking Ben and Jerry's that is the same price. So just just eat less of the Ben and Jerry's and just enjoy your life. But there's definitely a market for that. People are a lot more serious with their fitness than I am, especially these days, especially when I work in the food industry. There's just you meet a lot of homies that want to feed you, I'm not going to say no to that, but
I just remember the moment where Halo Top really blew up, and they try to get kind of creative flavors. To your point, as you scale up, you have to make trade-offs and taste and ingredients, whatever. So I made a joke about it a few weeks ago, amongst my friends. So I wanted to see where it was in your journey. So thank you for sharing.
So on the record, I probably tried every single product in the grocery store. You get a pint of Halo Top, half the time it's only 3/4 full, right? Or not even, sometimes it's half, because it's it's one of those things where it has so much overrun, and when it's not handled well in the grocery store, it melts and then refreezes. So that's part of why I don't really want to wholesale to other people, just because as of now I have full control of my products. All my freezers are up to temp. They have thermometers in there. It's details like that will make the product a lot fresher.
Right now, what is the process for you to come up with the flavors, the combinations, and then lastly the names? Are you a pun guy? Do you have a creative partner for that? What's going on there?
So my friend Jana, she's been helping me since the business started. She became an actual employee of mine, because she would just show up at the kitchen sometimes just to bug me, and then she started helping me. So but yeah, she's really good with puns. I used to be a lot better with puns, but not anymore. I kind of got lazy with naming. But as far as the creative process of it, I have a thing about buying stuff on sale sometimes. So I stockpile my pantry, and whatever I have in my pantry, I have to use it. I've overbought a bunch of chocolates, so the past few weeks, I'm just all right, I got to use chocolate for this, chocolate for that. And then, I had a bunch of coconut sugar because it was on sale at H-E-B. And it's the best price you can get for coconut sugar. Stuff like that, where you can, at the end of the day, I'm still a business. You kind of want to find things that, that increases your margins. Because I will tell you right now, when it comes to labor, it evens out whether I use very bougie ingredients or not.
Gotcha. Aside from ice cream, do you like to cook? Or do you like to do savory dishes too?
I have a select few dishes that I cook regularly. I used to be a lot more into savory cooking, but when you're in the kitchen all day, it's just the last thing you want to do when you get home is cook.
Yep.
I've been beating the shit out of my air fryer, so I go to Costco and get those chicken nuggets.
The bear chicken nuggets. Yeah.
Yes.
They're not. We're not sponsored, y'all. We just love the chicken nuggets.
Yeah, it's Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets without the homophobia, so that's a plus.
Love that. We love to separate from the evil empire. I've been killing those, and I have a bad habit. Sorry to make this about me, everybody. I have a bad habit of buying whatever sauce Costco has on sale.
Yeah.
So the last sauce I bought was like the Japanese barbecue sauce. So I've been tearing that up with the
The
chicken nuggets.
the bacha Japanese barbecue is on fire.
It's
So
so good.
yeah.
I've heard there's a spicy version I need to get my hands on, but for now
Costco
I'm
won't
good.
have it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
not
like
yet.
stuff like that. Like I mean, I'm Filipino, so like rice is a staple in my diet. Um, but as far as like being creative, savory in the kitchen, it's not
Yeah.
my realm.
Now, one last question before we talked about something before we started recording that I want to jump back to, but one last question, curiosity for me. Any flavor fails? Like, have you tried to put something together, taste it, and you're like, I can't give this to anybody?
Not really, because
No.
taste is very subjective, and
Mm-hmm.
if I can eat it and enjoy it, I will put it out.
Uh-huh.
There's definitely some R&Ds that are just like kind of out there. Like I made like pombu ice cream with sesame seeds, so like you have seaweed ice cream. So like it's not stuff like that. It's not going to sell, but like Neo, which is a tasting menu, and Tatamo uses. I make ice cream for those guys. So like it really depends on the setting.
Uh-huh. So for the topic at hand, we were discussing earlier, like the reason Josh and I are talking is because there is a new restaurant coming to Houston called Chows from the Berg Hospitality Group from a guy named Benjamin Berg, who does not have an Asian background. He's from New York, middle-aged white guy. I saw the name, I thought it was weird. Josh saw the name, thought it was a little weird. And culturally insensitive, problematic, however you want to describe it, probably just on the side of not okay. You raised some criticism, you've got some pushback, but you've also been on the other side of criticism when it comes to like naming a flavor of ice cream. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and like your reaction to the restaurant and your experience reacting to the criticism of your product?
Okay, so my reaction to the restaurant is it was just weird because with all the capital and all the resources Benjamin Berg has, like I do respect the guy as an entrepreneur, and like he's done really well for Houston dining, but it was the English language is vast, and you could have picked any name. You had to brand it Benny Chows. I think his logo is like, it says Benny Chows on it, like make it seem like it's written in Chinese.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of Asian Americans are just like raising, they just give them the side eye. That's all it is. It's just we're
Right.
pointing it out. The last 2 years, Asia Town had a lot of closings. A lot of Chinese restaurants closed in Asia Town, and you're out here trying to profit from that, right? And then I did notice, like when I look at the Facebook foodie group sometimes, especially the Heights one, like there has been a lot of Asian restaurants that popped up over the course of the year. And then there's less enthusiasm with those over time. And then when Benjamin Berg was announcing a Chinese restaurant, everyone was excited. So I'm just like, wow, what kind of power does this guy have? This guy
Right.
has some sort of pull,
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like I'm not really trying to hurt anyone's business here. It's just like I want to be able to call something out that I think is kind of wrong,
Yep.
just because I am from that background. This happened 2 years ago. I was like showcasing what I was doing with ice cream. I don't think I started the business yet. I was very active on my Instagram stories, like showcasing the process. And then I mentioned that something was like crack because it's very addicting. And a girl called me out on it. It was like, hey, you shouldn't be using that word because it's like it's very problematic. A lot of communities have been affected by that word and the usage of it. And like my reaction, like was just like what how they reacted. So that was my privilege as a male, I think. So
Mm-hmm.
like a man, I was like, man, fuck this bitch. Like what the fuck? Who the fuck does she think she is? Like
Mm-hmm.
that was my reaction, and like I posted it and everything, and then yeah, and, like I was heated, like for no reason. But then when someone is close to you, explains to why it's problematic, you kind of have to listen at that point. So I listened, and like, I shout out to that girl. I don't know if she still follows me. There was a point in my life where, I was just being a dumbass and not
Right.
being mindful. So, like we have episodes like that in our lives. The past few years has been like, a lot of growth for me as far as like, being a business owner, being a person, because I think when we work on ourselves and work towards a more positive trajectory, good things happen. Really good things happen to you. I do recognize the success of my business and mine, just because it's like, I say what I think most of the time, and I have that sort of transparency. So in the article, I mentioned about being mindful on who you support. I'm making a point to showcase where I stand on things.
Mm-hmm.
Just to weed out those people that don't really want to fuck with me,
Yeah.
With the Right Wing Media podcast, I was just like, attacked. I was like, it was a fairly grueling thing to hear, but I had to hear it because this is what these people think. It was really hard to listen to, but this is what happens when something gets called out of the norm.
Right.
Because I had the same reaction, I own up to that. So
Yeah.
So now I'm just like, as far as like, naming things and being respectful, I make it a point to do that.
Yeah. I know. I think that's really important. I think, to your earlier point, when we get called out, it's not comfortable. It's really uncomfortable. So it's really hard to react and like keep a cool head. Like you said, you got heated. It's not easy. And I think, one, applaud your growth and like the growth other people have experienced. If you've been called out for anything, like hopefully you've handled it well if you're listening, or you've learned from it. Because a lot of times people I don't think they see it from the other side. Like they're like, oh, it's a joke. It's just a word. It's whatever. It's like, okay, but you're so far removed from the reality of that word and what it means and who it hurts. So I would recommend, if anybody tells you like, hey, that word is inappropriate to use, like listen to them. No one's trying to like limit your vocabulary out of spite or anything like that.
Especially when you are kind of a community leader, where people look up to you. Be a lot more respectful with things. Like I would never call a gay person the F word, because like those are words that I use. Like, like I had the N word pass, but now I'm just like, it's just so uncomfortable using it. Like for me right now, like if someone calls me out on my bullshit, like thank you. That's all it is.
Right. I would also add, like, especially if your friends call you out, I think that's one, it's hard for them too, but two, it's better your friends to call you out, like in a private conversation, in a group text, whatever, than for you to go outside or on Instagram or on social media, wherever, and repeating like some using a phrase you're not supposed to use, or repeating some theory or something that you believe. And for everybody, like, just be like, okay, this guy, or this lady, I'm not doing business with her. I'm not doing business with Josh. Like, we don't want anything to do with it. I want to jump back to like some of the other things I thought were weird and like the press announcement for the new restaurant. I don't even want to call it by that name. But before I do that, I did want to shout out like all the reporters. You mentioned one, Eric Sandler, Emma Balter, Megan McSwain, all have been writing in response to this and kind of keeping up with it. And so a lot of the quotes I'm using are from their articles because I haven't been able to find the press release.
It's definitely on their Instagram. It's like the first picture is just like, telling you what the concept is. And you read the whole thing. I'm just like, wow, this is weird.
Yeah. Let's get into the weirdness right now. So the first thing is that one thing he says, it's occupying space between white tablecloth fine dining and neighborhood Chinese restaurants. And he also said he also described Houston as lacking upscale Chinese. Josh couldn't even keep a straight face. I was going to say, let's unpack it. And if you could provide some recommendations for folks. I, disagree, but I am not like well-versed in the Houston food scene yet. So please go for it.
Okay, so there's a bunch of places in Asia Town that will give you, like a fine dining experience and then it's Chinese owned, and a lot of the staff is Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's Funk's Kitchen, there's Hai Kang Harbor. It's hard for me to wrap my head around what else could you elevate from that, right?
Yep.
So to say that we're opening, a fine dining Chinese restaurant and with elevated that's elevated, I'm not too sure what it means,
Yep. He also says elevated Cantonese eats and clever dim sum, which again, what does that mean?
I'm just like, there's some Chinese grandma like making dim sum. I'm pretty sure you can't really elevate that anymore because that's like
That's
I'm
good.
like, I'm like, all right, what you gonna do? Like,
right?
What makes it so elevated? Like,
they're gonna add. It's Texas. It's Houston. They're gonna add brisket. that's a go-to. There was another weird one that is like not necessarily food related, but it just like the sentence annoyed me. He described the restaurant like the atmosphere of the restaurant as upscale with the nightlife edge to it. And for me, all that means is going to be dark and loud, and I'm not going to be able to see my food or hear my friends. It's like not interested in that. But the last one I want to share before we go into his response, even before like the podcast episode, especially given your comments about like how you're creating flavors, said ingredient driven approach, but with top-notch service. Again, what does that mean? All foods are ingredient driven,
right? Yeah,
and top-notch service. Like the but is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. But please, what were your thoughts when you read that?
Yeah, so like I made like a bunch of like blurbs of what I thought when I read that press release. I'm just like, okay, top-notch service. I think I get top-notch service at those Chinese restaurants. Like, I get waited on. Like they take care of my water. So to me, that means it's just like you get servers that can speak English, that can communicate with you better. That's all that means to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be employing people that look like you, and call it elevated because everyone around the restaurant looks like you. So
right. Real quick aside about like appropriated culture, one thing I was thinking about, and it also has something to do with this concept, and we mentioned like this guy the Berg Hospitality Group has probably 8 restaurants, I think, in Houston, partners across the industry, and money is what's really important, right? Money talks. This is a very expensive location, kind of prime location next to other restaurants from the group. I was listening to an episode of another podcast about hot chicken and like the origins of hot chicken. And like the first hot chicken place is a restaurant named Prince's in Nashville. But when most people think hot chicken, they think of a couple chains like Hattie B's. That one comes to mind. And the reason like we know Hattie B's and people might not be as familiar with Prince's, like the originator founded by a Black woman, is like venture capital money.
Yeah.
And then who their clientele is. So to your point, like if you go into Benny Chows when they open, there's not going to be a ton of people that look like you or me there.
No.
Working in the front of the house or sitting at the tables.
So first of all, like you can always tell when a venture capital opens a restaurant. It's very, very beautiful space, but when you eat the food, it's always kind of lacking and a little bit overpriced. I hate using the word overpriced because like I sell overpriced ice cream, believe it or not. I make a living selling overpriced things. But for you to open up a Chinese restaurant and have the audacity to charge people $35 for a General Tso's chicken. That I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but like I look at his menu and like the prices of his food is like that.
Right.
While other Chinese restaurants are closing down, it's a very tone deaf approach to me. I don't know if you appreciate a culture, you would bringing someone on from that culture. First of all, you would give it respect, not to give it a very generic name, and then put actual Chinese characters on your branding.
It's been wild to watch it unfold. And something else that you mentioned in your stories that I remember, and then that came after, kind of in response to some of the backlash. I'll read like a few more quotes, everybody. Sorry to be quote heavy, but they're weird and it's important to set the context. Ben Berg was asked about like some of the comments maybe you made. You mentioned someone earlier, I think Isabel.
Yeah.
Isabel made, and he said, well, I met with my partner and landlord, Frank Liu. They were throwing out names. He threw out Benny Chows, and Frank Liu loved it, which was very much like, oh, look at my black friend, look at my gay friend, look at my Asian friend, look at my female friend, look at my like underrepresented friend. They said it was fine. Give me a pass. Like,
yeah,
come on.
So yeah, my direct quote from that, I was like, oh, my black friends gave me a pass to say the N-word, but like I have to, so like every black person has to be okay with that because my black friend gave me a pass. So but like that's never the case, and yeah, so like you have to have that recognition, and a good example is when I reacted like the way I did with that person from a few years ago. That was me being a male, like a female telling me what to do was not okay with me at the time. In this case, a non-white person telling or like making it seem like we're telling them what to do, it's not okay with them. And we got bombarded. We got like, you know, basically they were crying on that podcast, like that we called something out, right? His privilege is the confidence of like doing something like this, because me as a male Asian American, I would never have the confidence of opening a Jewish deli, call it Josh Greenberg or something, and then say I elevated their cuisine. It's fucked up. It's and it's like it's very anti-Semitic, and then you know you spew shit like, oh, I can claim a Jewish deli, but we also serve non-kosher things. So to me, that's almost I don't see a false equivalence here. That's the same thing to me. But you know, like will I think his restaurant will fail? No, because you know he has a lot of supporters, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's just like, you know, we are just like, it's just, to me, it's just important to know who you're supporting, because the average, me being in the industry, I know who he is, but like the average person doesn't, right?
Right.
I think it's important to like build a community around it and just like educate yourself. And yeah, because there's so many restaurants here where these restaurants are struggling or need the money more. And the food's probably going to be better, honestly.
I'm with it. I'm with it 100%. That's why we're having this conversation. So yeah, that's the Benny Chow side of it. There's one more thing. There's not as much information about it, but it's also like a really weird concept. Let me see if I can pull up the notes real quick. It is called Canopy Social, which is going to be a rooftop bar in the same building. and it was described as, well, there's a lot wrong with that one too. It's first described as British Caribbean inspired, which I don't know what that means, because it's like, is it going to be baked beans, or is it going to be like baked beans and toast, or is it going to be like meat patties? And is there? Well, go ahead.
When you know history, it's just like British colonized the Caribbean, and so like you're gonna do like a colonizer colonizee concept. Like, all right, what does this mean? Like. So I'm like, all right, cool. He's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants, right? And I think we're being fair here, because like the backlash I got from right wing media was fucked up. Like, you know, I told you it was hard to listen because like so like he was quoting me, then called me Mr. Miyagi and kept continuing with the Native American accent. So he fucked that up too. So it's just weird, man. Like, I don't know. I got a 1-star review on Google because I was critical or whatever. I'm just like, I'm just pointing it out. Like,
listen, again, Josh is very clear. We're not bashing them. We just think this is all very weird. Like, you want to have a theme or a concept when you open a business, or like a through line for a business. Totally understand that. But there are so many options when you're creating the business and thinking about the name, thinking about the staffing, thinking about the concept. British Caribbean inspired rooftop bar in Houston. That sentence, nothing in that sentence makes sense. No. How many months of the year, one, are you going to want to be at a rooftop bar in Houston? I still don't know what the menu or vibe would be at a British Caribbean inspired place. But to Josh's point, also, this is a very successful businessman in the restaurant space.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. He will not lose a dime or a minute of sleep tonight because we've released this podcast. But also to Josh's point, finally, it's important to take a stance on things so people know where you stand. And if people decide they do want to do business with you because of that, or that they don't want to do business with you because of that, that's fine. But like, they know, and you know, and you can like move about your day knowing like I've raised a flag that this is like unacceptable. So get with me or move along. So,
I mean, that's I mean, to be fair, that's the game here, right? Like, you know, whoever is capitalist, it's a capitalist game. Whoever has more money is bound to win, right? Like, but you know, I'm very transparent in where I stand on things. You know, women's rights, like, you know, women's reproductive rights. We did like a whole pop up raising money for Planned Parenthood. And yeah, I'm just like, this bullshit over here.
Right. It's like you.
Yeah, it's like, yo, your boy's trying to be anti-racist, and you got your goon over there, fucking on other podcasts, just to like make yourself look like the victim that we're bullying you, but like we're the ones who got bullied here, honestly. Like,
right.
And we're not crying about it. You know, like I didn't have an hour-long segment on like just like making fun of us for you know, for pointing an issue out, not even crying, you know.
Yep.
So who's the fucking snowflake here? I don't know.
Yeah, it's we could do a whole episode on that. Like, who's really reacting inappropriately to, you know, a fair, level-headed criticism and not resorting to bad accents or characters of names. Yeah,
I became a caricature because of that, and you know, I think in my eyes, I won this because it proved the point of the article. Yep. You know, it really proved the point of the article, because it's like, I don't know, like, if you're going to retort to name calling and having a pretend scenario on how we grew up, like, you know, he said, like, so Isabel is a dear friend of mine. She said, you know, Isabel, you know, she probably had nothing to do with her life. Now she had to start Have a Nice Day with her friends. See, she can't even do it herself. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like,
you have friends that you started a business with? How dare you? Why didn't you get $500,000 in seed money from your parents? That's the way to do it.
Yeah, right.
I think that's where we've gone wrong. We just didn't have wealthy parents to bankroll everything for us, and maybe that's where we messed up. So, in conclusion, where can people go, or what recommendations do you have for people, like if they're in Houston and they want to try good Chinese food? We won't get into the British Caribbean, whatever that is, but where would you send people in Houston if they were here for a weekend? You have as much time as you need.
I've been going to Vinh Hoa, which is like Chinese Vietnamese restaurant, which is it's like a seafood restaurant, and then they just make really good food there. You have Fung's Kitchen, very very tenured here in Houston. They just opened back up because like they had like a fire they had to deal with the fire over there. And then Hai Kang Harbor, another seafood restaurant. Start with those three and you can branch out. Honestly, like Asia Town is so vast. There's like restaurants restaurants in every single corner. You're bound to find a good one there. I think it will give you a good grasp of what, like, you know, Chinese food is, because, you know, it's Chinese people that are cooking it. It's really hard to assume what Benny Chows is going to be like. Or the article stated that he's working with a Chinese chef. He's consulting with a Chinese chef, which is cool, I guess. But, you know, I'm sure he'll do well. We all know he's going to do well. It's like people are going to patronize him. There's a lot of influencers that will showcase, like, you know, more mom and pops, mom and pop joints that could need the money and that could need your business. Just like, it's like a little nudge, right? They're probably struggling, and the food is probably a lot better, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, if I could be Keith Lee and go to all these places and put them on, I would. But the best I can do is, for now, is this podcast, this conversation.
That guy's fire, man. Like,
he's so good. Hands like this, just go for it. 1 through 10.
Yeah, he pops out of my TikTok For You page all the time. It's like, man, like whatever he does, it's great. I think a lot more people should do that. Like there's time and place for like high end restaurants. If you want to have that experience for the day to day, if you choose to go out for lunch, go to those mom and pops.
Lots of good local spots. Well, Josh, those are all the questions I have. Where can people find you if you want to be found on the internet to keep up with your ice cream, your thoughts, whatever?
Oh, so my food page is at Eats Gone Wild on Instagram. That's where I post all the bullshit shit that happens, and my business page at Underground Creamery. That's where you can find everything ice cream, or like all the ice cream that I make and sell. That's where you're going to find it. Not really much, opinions on there. That's all where Eats Gone Wild is. And, I think we're at a point in time. It's like food is literally the one thing we all do. It's a good way for us to learn each other and, by sharing a meal and like be more respectful of each other. Oh, and another thing is like, when you have to market in a place of superiority, it's an immediate red flag. I made it a point where I say nothing about my products being better than anyone else, because it's like, we're all small business. And this is why I'm like, I'm not here to be like, man, fuck Ben Berg. I hope he loses a bit. I'm not doing that here.
Right.
Yeah. So once you see someone, markets in a place of superiority, like elevated, that's a good starting point of like trying to learn what they're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, Ben Berg's gonna be fine. People are gonna do the business. We just wanted to call out that like, hey, it's not the best way to like honor the culture or respect the culture or
right. Yeah.
Just really signal that you appreciate it. So Josh, once again, thank you for joining me on this episode of That Can't Be Right. Everybody, if you enjoyed this episode or if you're spite listening from some right-wing corner of the internet, please still give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. But Josh, thanks so much.